This podcast is recorded on the traditional lands of the Boon Wurrung and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders and acknowledge their connection to this land. There's no justice without First Nations justice. Welcome to Second City, a place where every week we'll be asking and trying to answer, if the first city falls, how do we want to build a life together in the second city? Hi Alex, hi Lerna, how are you guys? Hi. So, a bit different today. I want us to spend a moment using our imaginations, all of us, whoever's listening. Imagine our second city is here now. So the first city has fallen, the old world has gone, its power-driven leaders have dissolved into dust. You can hit pause and think about that for a little while if you'd like to. And then imagine in the second city we're living together in community, our basic needs are met. We have health, we have housing, education, money to live. And so here's the question for you to imagine and ponder on. What are we getting up to? What goes on in the second city when we're all just enjoying ourselves because we have time for that now? Lerna, what are you doing in the second city?
Oh my goodness, where to start? This is so exciting.
You've got a list. Get your bucket list.
All right, so you get up in the morning, you go down to your local shops because everything's local, you're living local. You know, before you jump online or wherever you go to your local office or whatever to do your job. Or this is for those who have jobs that they can do from home. But there's a sense of community. You know your neighbours. You get your coffee or whatever from your local coffee shop, which, kind of happens anyway now to those who are lucky enough to have, their local barista. Your kids go to the local school because all the schools are equal and equally funded and of equal quality. And so because your kids go to the local school, they all know the local kids. Everyone knows the local families because you're not, going across town to...
They have great connections.
Yes. And it's just a sense of community. There's your community market garden just down the road. People get together and plant their own veggies. I don't know. You kind of scale it back to reality, not a manufactured existence is for me. You get up, you get on the train, you go to work, you go into your office. It's all it's man-made. It's not what humans should be doing. It's whereas in the real world you can, you're building houses next door or whatever, that still happens, but you're more local. That is for me. That's not to say that you don't, know other people in other suburbs or whatever, but you have a deeper connection to where you are living.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's for me.
Connectedness and local. I love that.
Yeah.
Actually sounds like lockdown.
Yes, but without the trauma.
Without the trauma. So true. More freedoms. Yeah.
How about you guys?
So just listening to Lerna, it's so interesting. I think the word that was coming to my mind for how things are now with how difficult it is to get to places and see people and everyone's tired. The word is alienation, and the word human was so interesting to me because when I was much, much younger, I travelled in Europe, and the thing that just kind of grabbed my heart was how human scale so much of it was. And you didn't have these giant, nasty roads like highways and freeways everywhere. You could walk places, you could cycle places. Things were just smaller. Houses were smaller too. And the thing is, here, we're kind of really enculturated to want houses of particular sizes. I don't know how that or if that gets shifted. There's all sorts of interesting, experimental stuff going on in the inner city for, the fortunate few who can afford it, in terms of making, all these third spaces. But in my ideal kind of setup, I was going for a walk before, and a couple of thoughts occurred to me. The first was, I'm so lucky to live where I do because there's lots of trees and lots of really nice smelling flowers. And when I moved to this place where I live now, my whole life changed in really good ways. But the thing that kept gnawing at me was, well, it's very nice that I've got this, but lots of people fucking don't. And I can't enjoy it until everyone's got it. So that's my first thing. The second thought that occurred to me was, like, I was trying to do this, like, bones of a project for work where we kind of do these amazing community activities in different places, and particularly like in outer suburban areas and regional areas, places that like have a lot of socioeconomic kind of pressures. And something never felt right about it. And the more research I would do in those areas, the more I'd realize, like, people are exhausted and it's impossible to get anywhere. There's one road in, one road out of a lot of estates. Traffic's impossible. The infrastructure's shit. Everything is just, And I would jokingly refer to it with some colleagues, like this idea of bringing, like, basically, you know, ethnic festivals all the time to places, but like for Anglos too, right? As the bread and circuses. And what I got wrong was that bread needs to come first. You can't enjoy a circus. You've got no capacity, no bandwidth to enjoy the circus if you're hungry. Yeah. If you're worried about stuff, if you are exhausted after this massive commute, if you're stuck in traffic, you can't get places. So my ideal is that, like, the first thing we do is just make sure people have what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so key, to have basic needs met first, so that then you can actually start to ask yourself, well, how do we bring enjoyment beyond that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I hear from both of you is, you know, there's this idea that we've talked about in politics of walkable cities and having everything in reach of people so that they are brought out into their community. Like, I remember I grew up in the outer burbs. I grew up in Dandenong, and you'd get in your car and you'd drive to the shopping centre, and you'd go from the car park to the supermarket, back to the car park, back to your house. Whereas now I live here in this, you know, as you've said, this lovely little bayside community, and I walk my dog to the IGA, and I see other people with their dogs on the way, and there's such privilege that comes with that. I mean, I'm a renter, so I can perhaps afford to be somewhere a little bit outside of my, well, a lot outside of my mean otherwise. But yeah, to make that available for everybody, Alex, I know I feel obsessed with this as well. And the reason I feel obsessed with it is not just because of how that means we experience our own lives, but I think it changes our whole view of everybody else as well. And like, if I could wish us something in the second city, it would be to be predisposed toward kindness and generosity. And I think it's really hard to have those qualities for other people if you yourself are really struggling or fearful, or feel, what do they call it, where you have the deprivation mindset. Right.
Resource competitive mindset.
Right. So it's the opposite of that. I want the opposite of resource competitive mindset. I want, like, benevolent mindset, where I definitely want people eating the mulberries on my nature strip from the tree there, and my landlady sharing it with everybody, because we all have plenty to spare, which we do. FYI, if you live in Middle Park, the mulberry tree on my nature strip is going bananas.
And every new estate to have their own mulberry trees on their nature strips. You know, like, okay, make 1,000 homes, but put the infrastructure and the amenities that are required, and the greenery, the trees, the pockets of no building, of just open green space. Put them all there. You know, like, plan properly for what communities need to thrive.
Yes. I've said this before. I live in a little street that happens to have a little village here in Middle Park, and it's one of the last little perfectly preserved villages, I think, in Australia, maybe even, or certainly in suburban areas. And I think everybody should live around a commons space like that, all suburbs should be set up around these beautiful, and beautiful is a word I use a lot, and I think it's essential. Like, I'm very sensitive to how things look and feel, and I'm a massive sook about it, right? Like, I will not work in a building with horrible fluorescent lighting, because I will feel bad about myself psycho-spiritually, you know. But I think we all do in some way. And so I've been very indulgently watching, Stanley Tucci, and he's got this series on Italy, and it's Stanley who's like glorious to observe, wandering around Italy eating. There's a lot to enjoy about that. But basically what I've loved about it is how beautiful Italy is. And even just watching, they had this festival in I can't remember, I think it was Sicily, where they set up this table that was like an enormous, like half a street length of table, and they all came and brought food and had these big community dinners. And they wanted to, because they were in the most beautiful little cobblestone marketplace ever with fairy lights, So of course you want to go to that dinner. So I feel that giving people a desire to come out into shared spaces by making those shared spaces beautiful and worthy of the investment to make them beautiful. And then, of course, the opposite of dereliction, so they're more safe, right? They become safer spaces because they're frequented.
Actually,
that's my
I have
obsession.
noticed something that's been really different to maybe a couple of years ago. Like a lot of suburbs were building office blocks where you can rent out an office and go and work there, so you don't have to trek into the city. I've seen two places now where they've turned like these warehouses, I don't know if you've seen them, into offices, but it's like this gorgeous old warehouse style old buildings. There's plants in there, there's like a barista in there, you can come, it's like a little library, and you come and you set up and work in there. And it's not just an old fluorescent lit building anymore. It's this gorgeous building with spirit and a vibe, and they've started popping up as somewhere you can rent to do your work. And even just I've noticed that has changed. It's not a fluorescent building anymore, but something with character, and there's couches, opportunities for you to chat with someone else. Then there's like a little isolation nook you can go into to focus, and I've noticed those. Have you seen those?
I've definitely seen good conversions, yeah.
But it's like for the public.
Oh.
Yeah. Like it's not an office or a corporation.
Oh, I see.
It's like
it's a public space.
Yeah.
Space.
Yeah, they're co-working spaces, but they've got real, they're aesthetically kind of really
very
natural
beautiful.
And raw materials, natural lighting, plants. There's plants in there. There's little nooks and shared spaces and couches, and that's second city thinking.
Yeah. Sonia and I, were first becoming friends. We went on this long-ish, for me, because I never leave my neighbourhood, drive, and I was explaining to Sonia my bread and circuses vision.
I remember this conversation.
And I was going, but it has to be beautiful. If it's not beautiful with the fairy lights, and
fairy lights.
I tell you, as someone of the Woggish persuasion, fairy lights are incredibly important. And colour and beautiful stuff, right? I agree with both of you about how important that aesthetic component is, but I think unless it directly makes money, it's devalued.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be. And, I think about when I get off the train at my local train station, because I'm so lucky to live in the area that I do. Like, the first thing is, it's like this really busy kind of commercial street area with like lots of cafes and fairy lights, and particularly coming like at sunset, or even in the dark, you don't feel scared because there's lots of people around all the time, and it's well lit, and because it's not an area where people are struggling and you're going to get the problems of tears in the social fabric. And so I think so much of what we're talking about is like, how do we repair the social fabric so that everyone gets all of this together, because it's all interlinked. Like, you can't hive off any separate bit of this.
Yeah. So is this your dream of the salon and bazaar, Alex? Tell us about this.
Why do you read my mind so? So
I'm literally reading your notes. So just to be full disclosure.
That's how you do it. Right.
Yeah.
So I have this thing that I'm too busy and also probably not quite smart enough to organise, where I have, and someone else is kind of, other people are doing similar things as well. Like that, there are these arts collectives that do it, but not properly the way I envisage it, where you have this event and it's not too big, and people split off into like small discussion groups and just chat about like meaningful things as part of a program. But there are also artists there who set up, and it's not commercial, it's not like to buy, right? Because like that kind of starts to get problematic in all sorts of ways. But artists do basically show and tell, and they explain their art, they show their art, and then like they can have like a little QR code so you can like find their contact details afterwards if you want to buy stuff later. But yeah, it's like, it's a space where you can talk about important things to you, share, make connection with others, and see the beautiful things that people create. And also, like, maybe just hear their art. Maybe they're poets or storytellers or singers or any of this.
Yeah. So like a showcase.
It's a big show and tell for people. Like,
Yeah.
why do the school kids only get it? We should get
That
it
is so
too.
true. We should. My children happen to be quite arty children, and they would love this. We should do this much more often. I think that's exactly what they would dream of, is a much more creative second city. Like the second city is a place where creativity abounds. First of all, I suppose, because your basic needs are met, and so you have brain space in your spare time to do this stuff. And
Yes.
second of all, because it's appreciated.
Yeah. So that means Second City, we redesign our areas of living so people don't have to, the walkable cities, so you don't have to
Yep.
trek hours and hours to get to your workplace. So that does two things. It saves time. You've got less time to commute to your workplace. And secondly, you are already within the area that you live to do your work. So there's one stress already taken away. You're not getting up at 5 to go to work. You're
Yeah,
not coming home at
truth.
7 when it's dark.
Yeah.
And then once we put in the infrastructure and the amenities and things that everyone needs, that then takes that stress away, because, even like transport, buses, trains, trams, so you don't have to drive everywhere. Because, not everyone
Yeah.
can move, because you have to think of those with disabilities, the elderly, you have to, even like, so where I live, for example, there's a lot of kids and we don't have any major roads. So like my kids they were taking themselves to school by themselves from grade 3, riding their bikes, or because the road to school, the path to school was safe and small. It was through, parkland, no major highways or byways that would put them in danger. And because most kids were going, because there was a lot of primary schools in the same area, every parent has their eye out for any kid, whether or not you know that kid or whether or not they go to your school. It was that mindset, because the kids are all little and they're all
It
going.
takes a village.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is, once those things are in place, the things that you need, so that if all your needs are met, then that allows you to have that breathing space for you to appreciate the beauty in the environment and the trees that are planted and the bushes and the greenery.
Spend
the
time in
music.
nature.
Yeah. That's our
I do
second
too.
city.
I think it was, that French deep sea adventurer fellow,
Jacques Cousteau.
Jacques Cousteau, who said that people will protect what they love. And so we're so separate from nature, it's no wonder we don't want to protect it, because we just don't have those experiences in it. So part of my second city vision is that we fall in love with nature in real life and spend time in it. And I know for myself that when I've been in a very busy, stressful time, as I was in the election campaign, and I just took the kids out to Hanging Rock for a day, like the school holidays. And we spent a day in, and it was just so amazing to be so far away from the Wi-Fi and devices and roads and traffic, and just to be with the bush. It
And
Yeah, more
especially
time for
Hanging
that.
Rock, because there's a real energy at
Oh,
Hanging
there
Rock.
is.
Like,
Yeah.
it's almost physical. You can almost touch it. There is this
Yes.
magnetism
Yeah. Very
there.
significant space for First Peoples.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
powerful. It's true.
And also,
Yeah.
when you do have those stresses taken away and you do have access to greenery, you kind of remember that, well, actually, we are part of nature. We are not separate. We are connected. We're all
Yeah.
living species.
Feels a bit Avatar, actually. I pictured Avatar. Crazy blue people who live in, anyway, plug into nature. So I talked before about Stanley Tucci in Italy. Are there other places that are doing this well already, that have that sort of a second city experience already in this?
Well, have you seen what Paris has done with their
Tell
bike
us.
lanes? And
true.
And that's a big cosmopolitan city. They've taken cars out. And it has completely changed the city. Everyone's riding their bikes, and it's slowed it down. Even just doing something like that has, major impact.
Yeah. I always fantasize about what we could do on streets like Fitzroy Street. Yeah.
My council has like it does some really good things. I don't want to say it's all bad, but it has increasingly draconian stuff around cars. Without my council doesn't have the power of the state government to improve public transport.
Yeah.
And to make sure that if you're making cars not possible here, that you've got something that is accessible for people who need it. They need to get places, or if they've got disabilities or any of that stuff, right? So my big thing for the second city is that we never take away before we provide first.
Yes.
That's my first principle, that you've got to think of, particularly frontline workers, working people with disabilities. What do they need in order to not be stressed and not be alienated? And then, start, building. And on my walk, I think it was yesterday, I saw this, and I'm going to sound like an absolute freak for saying this, but I saw this enclosed scooter, mobility device.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I just I wanted to go follow it because I was so obsessed. It looked like the coolest thing in the universe. And then I went down a rabbit hole on my walk, Googling, how much do these things cost? Like a lunatic. I've got, you can get a decent one for around $8,000.
Oh, true.
Which
yeah.
I will
That's a
not be
small
doing
car.
anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And the model that this person had was $16,000, and I personally have no need for it. However, in our second city, these incredible mobility devices are available for the people who need it, and they don't have to worry about how much it costs as well.
And the number of people on those electric scooters now, right? A safer, slightly more road-safe version of that's well legislated, where we have some rules and whatever, and people are maybe trained to use it, and have to wear protective gear and stuff. Clearly, the uptake of use of that particular device has shown us we want a more accessible personal transport that occupies less space, less of an environmental footprint, less of a literal footprint, can be parked. I love that idea. Those tiny cars, I think they're incredible.
Oh,
There's a lady here who's got it's so tiny. It's the tiniest little tiny car. I know. Yeah, it's like a lawnmower with a roof. Lost my mind.
that's the dream. That's the dream.
I know. Tell us, Alex, about, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but I just want you to describe the Halakwa. Please.
Okay. So that's what I was referring to before in terms of an arts collective that gets up to some of the stuff, right? So yeah, they bring the most beautiful energy to these events that they put on, where they get artists from the wider region generally of where I feel my folks have their ancestral connection. So the Levantine places, Iran, Afghanistan, and they have them in these beautiful spaces. So it's always aesthetically magnificent. And they have poetry readings, musical performances, spoken word, and the people who attend are just the loveliest, kindest people. And as someone who used to be religious and then had to stop because, I just, it wasn't me for many reasons. And I used to go to this kind of lefty synagogue, and they would tie themselves in knots trying to find ways to say, well, if you look at the Bible in this way, it doesn't say mean things really about gay people. It doesn't say that women should be completely consigned to the kitchen. If you do this, if you do that, and that's fucking exhausting. So what this place is for me, like when they put on their events, it's synagogue without rules that were written a couple of thousand years ago, so they might be a bit problematic today. And it's also not just the one people, because if you're just with only your own all the time, to me, that's boring. I want to be with my neighbours. I want to hear the stories and the music and see their art. Like, not just only myself all the time. I want to see you as well.
Which tells us something else about the second city, which is that there is something about it that meets the needs of the spiritual as well as the material.
And curiosity.
Gorgeous word.
Rather than fear. So right now in our city, fear is the dominant factor when you meet someone different to you. Whereas in the second city, the first reaction you feel should be curiosity. Tell me more. I want to learn about this. I want to understand this. That's second city thinking.
Yeah, beautiful. Always with the truth bombs, learner.
I know.
You open your mouth, I feel like I go, bam!
Right?
That's it. Truly. It's funny because when I first read the show notes for today, and I was thinking to myself, what is the second city for me? And it felt, yes, there's all of that physical and material and very vital sort of tangible things, but there's also about what I want is a social reckoning with othering. And I feel like we can't have the second city if we don't reckon with why it is that we other people. And what does that say about us? What are the traumas and the addictions and the escapisms and consumerisms and things that are wound into the fear, as you said, Lerner, that's wound into that need to other people? That we turn outward when it's too painful to turn inward. And that's the reckoning that I think we have to have as humans to be able to build a second city that stays safe enough for people to stay curious. Yeah. Right? Reckoning of the othering. I don't know how we do that. Like, that just says to me we're going to have to do some deep work. I don't know how we do that.
Well, this funny thing happened at the first Halakha event I went to where, like, I don't know how obvious it is that I'm Jewish, but generally, like, people tend to, from, like, the right part of the world do tend to, I think, clock it. And there were these elderly Palestinian guys, and we got into the nicest possible argument because they wanted me to sit down because they were being lovely and generous and chivalrous. And I was like, there is no way I'm sitting down. You're older than me, uncle. Like, and it was like, no, you. and the sweetest and but with so much love. And, I know we're in a part of the world where things are very fucking lucky. Like, we are so lucky here, and the fear doesn't need to be there. But everything that both of you were saying before about the importance of relegating fear, and prioritizing curiosity, and just stopping with the othering, because I promise we all want the same things. And I say that from a scientific basis because I have to research this stuff. I have to be right, or else the business I work for will go under, right? And what I can tell you is that we are the same fundamentally.
I always think of the beautiful words of that. She's the Sikh social justice woman living in the US, I believe, Valerie Kaur, I think her name is, and she says, you are just a part of me that I haven't met yet. And I find, right? When I first heard it, I was just like, oof, that sends me to my core. That we're all just, you're just, which is why the curiosity is so beautiful, because, I want to get to know this part of myself that I don't know yet. She speaks, actually, I highly recommend, if you've never encountered her TED Talk she has on YouTube, following the 9/11 attacks, and the movement that she's all, still involved with in the US to promote peace and connection, community activism against the authoritarianism that they're seeing there. Highly recommend seeking out her work and the work of people like her. But yeah, a startling statement to me, a different way of thinking about us as a collective.
Beautiful. This is years ago when my kids were like much littler. We wound up at the Albanian festival, and the problem with like a lot of the really cool ethnic festivals is that they're hard to get to because our city is not set up for like really easy public transport to lots of areas and whatever. And, I was saying it almost to be silly at the beginning that I want like ethnic festivals everywhere all the time, but we do, right? And I think, everyone at the Albanian festival, like, were completely aware that our interloper family was not Albanian, but like they were so excited to kind of share their magnificent culture with us, and like what a fun thing.
And food. I would go to anyone just for the food.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
See, like the thing is like, the whole thing about fear, and this is when you go back to kids. Kids are curious of each other. Even if, you're in a wheelchair, they come and say, oh, what happened to you? Why are you in a wheelchair? Or why do you walk funny? Or it doesn't come from a mean place. Like they're genuinely curious, like, oh, what's wrong? Why don't your legs work? Or, why are you wearing that? Or we need to take humanity back to that child wonder, the wonder of, wow, you are different from me, and I want to learn more about you. Not that I'm better than you and you're, I don't understand you, so you are a threat to me. Kids don't have that, and this is what Second City needs and requires from adults and leaders. And, our leaders now are they use fear as a weapon, and that does not exist in Second City. We are all as one. We wonder like through the eyes of a child, even no matter how old we are or what background we come from.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love the iView show, You Can't Ask That, which sort of does the same. It non-judgmentally invites people to ask a sincere question, and then approach the answer with curiosity, not judgment. Yeah. All right. So in summation, the Second City is a series of amazing villages in which we are the village for each other, for each other's children, in proximity to one another, living and constructing our world in a way that invites connection, doesn't prevent it. I think what I heard from you before, Alex, in terms of governance is that there needs to be more governance that's holding hands with, national governments with local governments so that things can be constructed this way, so that a local municipality can have amazing public transport, or lots and lots of tiny golf cart lawnmower vehicles for us. and that we're willing to confront our humanity and overcome our otherness, to see ourselves as a collective rather than as... So I guess what we're saying is we don't want an hyper-individualism in our second city. We don't want that hyper-individualism which reduces us all just to economic units. But we want to be something else, which is not even about how we do life so much as how we do humankinding. How do we humankind in the future?
Because we're in the, like, happy place for this episode, I want to just share with you the most wonderful, heart-filling experience I had in a group the other night. So broadly it was about like, how do you talk to people about getting the fossil fuel companies to pay for the damage that they do and also pay for, like, you know, bloody pay their taxes kind of thing, and pay for the stuff they take out of the ground that belongs to all of us. And the group I had was from the most conservative imaginable area, and none of them believed in climate change except for one. And even the one who believed in climate change was, like, not where the Greens would necessarily like her to have been. And you start off and your first thought is, well, this is going to be a short group. But then your second thought is, we're all the same. We all want the same things. And when it's framed in terms of fairness, that we as ordinary people are carrying the tax burden because the big boys write the rules to let them get away with not paying anything for any of it. And when they're doing that, they're polluting, and so polluters should pay. Doesn't matter what political stripe you follow, they all believe that so strongly because fundamentally we share these human values. And then by the end of the group, there was this incredible transformation where people were saying, I thought I was all alone. I didn't realise other people shared my values in this way. And one of them was saying, we're all so sick of politicians trying to divide us. And it's not just politicians, it's also big business interests. But I'm so sick of them trying to divide us, when look at us, like, we all have different politics in this group, but we all agree that we want Australia to be beautiful and clean and protected and fair. And they were walking on air at the end, because they'd also been in that spot of, like, well, we're never going to be able to get there because the powers that be are too great. And then, of course, I pull out Erica Chenoweth's 3.5%, and I say, like, look around you, look at how you can all agree on this, how if you're all in the same room you could work together. And they were walking on air at the end of it because they saw it.
Yeah.
And these were conservative people.
The most conservative imaginable people who do not believe in climate change. They believe it's a hoax at best.
Yeah, I worked in fundraising in charities for 25 years, and my job was to encourage people to support a cause. And in my experience over those decades, I have yet to find the kind of person who, when presented with a human problem, will not want to offer a generous human solution. And I remember around the Voice referendum knowing this is not, the Voice to Parliament for Aboriginal people, knowing this is not a referendum of Australian values or human kindness. This is a referendum of our access to truth and reality. And that's whenever I see authoritarianism rise around the world, I think of your phrase, Alex, not the liars, but the lied to. And I feel such an absolute conviction of who we are as people, again, and that everything else is just access to information. So I don't know where we're going to wrap this up. Any thoughts? Lerna, it's usually you say something amazing.
I'm thinking.
No pressure.
How are you feeling after, like, talking about all this stuff, Lerna?
I'm feeling that we need a revolution.
Oh, lady.
That's how I'm feeling. We need an uprising because the everyday person can make it. If we all, it's like in the movie Bug's Life. I know I've spoken about this millions of times before, but in Bug's Life, the ants all realize they have the power to defeat the grasshoppers. They work together and just by numbers. It's a numbers game. Their numbers beat the grasshoppers. It is exactly what we need to do within our societies. If we can all work together for the same cause peacefully, the ants were peaceful, they didn't do anything violent, we will win. And then that way, then we will put in the leaders that we believe can take our societies in the direction that we want as Second City. We need an uprising, a peaceful uprising, because our current leaders are not going to do jack shit. I mean, we're seeing it.
Velvet revolution.
Yeah, we need a revolution.
But a velvet one, right? Like,
oh yes, a velvet revolution. Yes, yes.
A gentle,
making things fair.
Yeah, a gentle fairness uprising.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm there. Let's make t-shirts next weekend.
Come join the gentle fairness uprising.
Yeah, so we'll have frogs and we'll have ants. They can be our symbols.
I love it.
At a big table where we have food.
Oh yes.
Yeah. See, this is great.
And fairy lights.
And
Yes,
fairy lights.
and fairy lights. Because you're right, fairy lights just make
I mean, they
everywhere
really do
beautiful.
make it. I know.
They make it so beautiful. And some people now have them in their trees and everywhere.
That's the way.